Hi everyone, Paige here. This is going to be the first in a series of videos I'm releasing to you about how to talk with our kids about climate change. It's for parents, it's also for teachers and any other grown-ups who are having conversation with kids of any age about climate change. So if you have, I don't know, 1 or 2 year old, this is maybe not something you're thinking about, or maybe you're thinking about it all the time. Like I know some people are. The thing is, it doesn't matter if your kid is a baby or 17. Climate change is a part of their and our lives. So we have to talk to them about climate change. Things have shifted, at least here in Colorado, very much in the last few months. As we've watched devastating fires ravage our community, it's no longer a choice to believe in or act on climate change. It's at our front doors. And instead of being terrified of this, although those feelings may arrive as well, I propose that we gather together and start to change the way that we live towards more resilience. And a lot of that change can be really joyful, which is why I think many of you are Jeff and Paige members, because you want to create that joyful community that faces the world with eyes wide open and hands clasped and connected. So before we even get into the how we talk to our kids about climate change, what I would like to do today in this video is tell you the why. Why should we talk to our kids about climate change? I already kind of covered the first point. It's here. We have to talk about it. So connected to that first point is the idea of busting the secret wide open. I'm going to tell you a little story as an example. When I was a child, I ate hamburgers. And I don't know, I just thought they were hamburgers. And then one day, someone told me, either my parents or somebody else, that that was a cow I was eating. And I was horrified. I really had no idea that it was a cow. And I was just left with that information and I didn't know what to do with it and I didn't know if that was okay or not okay. And I felt a small betrayal in that I hadn't been told the truth, that that was a hamburger and hamburger is a cow. How does this connect? I promise it connects. Because climate change can be a little secrety, especially for parents. You know, we aren't sure what to say, we aren't sure how to talk about it, so maybe we say nothing, or maybe we're afraid that they're gonna get scared, so then we say nothing. And then someday they find out about it. A lot of them will learn about it in school, some sooner than others, or from peers. So number one reason to start talking to our kids about climate change is to bust the secret, so that we lead into number two. We, the adults, whether we're parents or teachers who are motivated to do this, get to manage the message. Climate change is scary, like literally scary outside our front doors. And have you watched all the movies? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. They're terrifying, right? It's that classic thing where they spend 3/4 of the movie telling you that we're doomed and we're going down like the Titanic, and then a quarter of the movie giving you a couple of quick solutions. I'm not saying everything's like that, but it's a lot of what's out there. And that's a lot of what kids end up getting in school as well. So when we talk to our kids about climate change and tell them about it, we get to manage the message. We get to choose how much we say and what's relevant to our child, depending on their developmental stage, which is something I'll get into in a future video. There's appropriate information for a 17-year-old, and there's appropriate information for a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old. And they don't all need to know everything all at once. However, if we're the ones holding the conversation, we do get to manage that message and choose what message we want them to receive. That leads me to point number 3 of this video, is to create, through our messaging and our talking about climate change with our kids, an outlook of possibility in order to pivot away from debilitating doom, which is what happens to a lot of people, and perhaps you're one of them. I'm going to get into all of these finer points of this in future videos and my workshop that I'll be telling you about eventually. But for now, just to keep it simple for this short video, that point number 3 is we want to give our kids just the right information that they intellectually and developmentally can handle. And then we want to give them an outlook that lets them feel capable and not overly responsible. Now, I know this might sound like a lot, but I'm gonna use the fire that we had right here in my neighborhood just recently.
Just started right here. Oh, see, it's burning into there. Right now, it just flamed up.
Yes, must have a long way. So just down the street from here, 2 blocks that direction, there was a wildfire, and there was reaction and fear and all of the things that came along with that. The way that I chose, because that came to my door, I had to talk about it, right? I had to talk about the fire. At that time, I didn't get into a lot about climate change with my 7-year-old, but I did with an older child that's in my carpool. And instead of focusing on, that was so terrifying, oh my God, the fence almost burned down and all this stuff, slowly we started to talk about the ecology. We took a big step back, and that was how I managed the message and started a creative approach to how there's possibility in destruction. The fire burned. It was scary. Did you know that we live in a place where fire is supposed to happen? And fire has been suppressed here for many, many years. So we are actually going to experience more fires. That might sound scary, but actually, I think if you'll sit with it for a second, you'll see that that's kind of comforting. If we start to think that what's happening isn't supposed to be happening, it puts us into immediate resistance with the thing. Whereas if we accept that what's happening is what's supposed to be happening, even if it feels not what we want to be or scary, there's a level of being able to move instead of freeze. So with our neighborhood fire, we talked about that ecologically that happens here. It's been suppressed. There's going to be more. We have to learn how to live differently. We talked about what that would look like and how we might have to evacuate and what that would look like. And knowing what to do calmed everyone down, including myself. And then the final piece that I'll get to show you in this video in just a moment, or maybe now through the magic of video, is the regeneration that's already happening in that place that burned only about 3 weeks ago from the time of this filming. Oh my God, your fence. I just realized I was touching your fence.
Yeah, I know, it's all over my hands and everything, yeah.
So within a week and a half of the fire, just the whole field being blackened, there was green grass coming up. Fire, destruction, it creates life. When we start to consider some of these bigger pieces in our conversations with ourselves, with others, and eventually with our children when we're ready, it gives us so much more room than just being stuck and afraid and like you have to do something, and that thing you have to do, which might be like saving energy, doesn't even feel like it connects with that fire that just burned, even though somewhere in the back of your brain it does. So you can see it can get overwhelming really quickly, even for us grown-ups. So these are my top 3 reasons for the why of how we talk to our kids about climate change. The why behind why to even have that conversation in the first place. Because it busts the secret, lets us manage the message, and gives us the possibility to create an outlook of regeneration, resilience, rather than apathy and doom. Coming really soon to you, I am going to have some additional parent videos and offerings, as well as I believe the path is being laid for some in-person discussion groups and workshops as well. I even have a place that we can go, so that feels like a big hurdle that is already solved. Check. So do keep a lookout, and if you are particularly interested in these parent offerings, my intention is to offer them to you and to myself as a parent support as we all navigate these pretty wild times. Most of what I'm going to offer at this moment is going to be focused on sustainability and parenting in a time of climate change or climate crisis. But I think that it will expand from there. So if you have thoughts as well on any kind of workshops and content you're looking for, please reach out to me.